Doreen Grand-Pichet is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen. Ikra wants to know, what about the treatment of restricted patterns and stereotypic moments of the person with autism? This goes right to the heart, I think, of the difference between good ABA and schlocky ABA.
That's true. Well, I mean, and I think it's just a very, very good question, Ikra.
Yes.
Thanks for asking this question, because a lot of times those behaviors that are what we call restrictive patterns of behavior, stereotypical patterns of behavior, we refer to them in ABA as stereotypy. Most people call them self-stimulatory behaviors. These are a series of behaviors where I don't think there has been a good enough identification of what their function is. So I'll talk about them a little bit. First of all, we're talking about things that are a little bit repetitive. So for example, it could be anything from looking at ceiling fans that are turning, staring at lights, opening and closing doors, lining your toys up in a line, body rocking, looking at your hands like this, playing with water or sand repeatedly. I mean, there's a lot of them, and as you can see, everything I named, they're different in the way they look, right? Their topography is quite different. So as a behaviorist, what you do is you say, okay, I wonder what the function of this is. Why is this behavior occurring? Because even if I don't give it any attention, if it doesn't gain any access to an object or a tangible or to escape or whatever, it still continues, right? Yeah. So what is the function of it? And behaviorists have concluded that they want to put this whole category in a group called internal or intrinsic reinforcement. In other words, there's got to be some sort of internal reward that's coming from this behavior. We don't know what it is because it's not something that is obvious in the environment, but there's some sort of intrinsic reward that's coming from it, reinforcer, right? Now, to me, that's a little bit too broad. And I think that these self-stimulatory behaviors occur for different reasons. I think some of them occur as a result of pain. I've seen, there was a phase where I used to work a lot with gastroenterologists, and I learned and I saw like tons of videos of teenagers who had very, very distended, bloated bellies, and they would put pressure on their belly and they would body rock against a couch, against a countertop, against something like that. Now, if you don't know what's going on with them and you look at that behavior, it's another self-stimulatory body rocking type thing. But to me, that looked like what I would do if my stomach hurt, I'd be doing something like that. So that's one series. Another one is basically, this motion of body rocking activates the parasympathetic portion of the autonomic nervous system. And what it does is it calms you. Yeah. So I always find it funny that we call these things self-stimulatory. Sometimes I wonder if we should call them self-soothing behaviors, right? Because it's the same thing as a rocking chair. That's, in fact, why we have rocking chairs, because this motion is soothing. So sometimes I wonder if children have learned, or adults have learned, that this type of thing is soothing. Then there's the whole process of all of the visual self-stimulatory behaviors, which to me are have more to do with what Dr. Temple Grandin often talks about, which is the way we see things, and that things are seen in pictures or in boxes and so on. And sometimes our kids are doing things with their eyes, like if they're looking from the corner, I think they're trying to use either the rods or the cones differently in the back of their retina, because when you look from the corner, you actually see better in darkness, right? So, for instance, that could be one of the things that they're doing. There's no question in my mind that it plays a function, because there's so many different children doing this, right? And then, of course, there's other sensory types of things, you know, as we know now, when you're playing with water or sand, it helps to regulate your sensory input. So I know that, you know, I just named a few of these things, but I really believe that the self-stimulatory behaviors, these repetitive behaviors, have different functions, right? And it's super hard to identify what the actual function is for each child. How do you deal with them? That was the question, is what do you do with them? From my perspective, if you are trying to teach something and a self-stimulatory ritualistic behavior gets in the way of that, then I would break the pattern. I would actually try to, during that learning opportunity, prevent the child from doing it, and I would teach them and reward them. But I would give the child a private period of time to have that as a reward. It's kind of like anyone, you know, for my son, a reward would be, you know, listening to music, let's say. For me, a reward would be reading. And we have different types of things that we do, which are calming, soothing. A lot of people will get on a rocking chair and knit. Like, you know, so there's different things. So I think that it would be appropriate to limit the time that we engage in those behaviors, but allow them. Because if you don't allow them, I've often found that some other type of self-stimulatory thing will kind of come into the child's universe. And if you allow them all the time, it takes away from the child observing their environment. It's kind of like if you allow a child to have an iPad all the time, or any of us, right? I mean, sometimes I tell my husband, I'm like, put your phone away. We're going to spend 10 minutes just talking, because all we're doing is this, right? And so it's kind of like, you know, you could, honestly, if you look at people now in an environment, you go public, this is the new self-stimulatory behavior. We all do. So it's kind of like, it's important to make sure, and I always tell parents too, in regards to things like computer games and TV and so on, just manage it so that the child has enough of a reward during the day, but yet is able to do all the other things they need to do. Very long answer, sorry.
But great, because I wanted people to hear you say that, because I do think that this is some of the difference between good ABA and bad ABA. Because what I hear is from parents saying, well, they said they wanted to eliminate you know, this behavior, which I go, oh my gosh, you know, what are we replacing it with? And they're like, oh no, we're not replacing it with anything, and that's bad ABA. That's, you know, saying, not looking at it from the point of view of this is happening for a reason. It's fulfilling a need. So what's it getting in the way of, first of all? Like, do we actually need to target this or not? Because if we don't, leave it alone. But if it's getting in the way of something, then how do we make it fair? You always say that. How do we make it fair?
It has to be fair,
Yeah. And that's a great way, that's a great litmus test. If it's not fair, it's not good ABA.
Exactly.
And Dr. Doreen said so.
Absolutely. And you have to just think about that, like apply it to yourself, right? It's like, if you were to go to work and work, you know, 100 hours a week and never get paid, because pay is our reward, right? How long can you last? So that's sort of the way,
If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here. Don't forget, you can watch Ask Dr. Doreen live every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time on autismnetwork.com. We hope to see you there.